Welcome to Game Changers, the future of play, where we explore AI, gaming, and the business of play. I'm Sarah Ramos, and I'm here with the podcast team, Toni Callahan and Stephany Ventura. Today we have a special guest, Trent Oster, who's the CEO of Beamdog, a creator of MythForce and the team behind the enhanced editions of legendary titles like Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, and Planescape Torment. Trent's also the co-founder of BioWare, where he helped lead the company from a small team to over 400 people and led development on the BAFTA-winning Neverwinter Nights. Wow, that's a mouthful. Thanks for joining us, Trent.
Yes, it's a mouthful. There's a lot of time that passed in there. I look back, I got started in making games in 1994. So I'm old.
You're experienced, right? Hmm.
I have gained many levels.
That's great. Clock the hours. So today we'll hear Trent's insights on building and sustaining game studios over time, how teams navigate complex projects, and how leaders think about growth, learning, and long-term success in game development. So we'll share actionable lessons for leaders navigating these realities of modern game development. So let's jump right in. The first thing I want to start with, Trent, is how did you get started in the gaming industry and your journey to co-founding BioWare? That was some time ago, 94, right?
Yeah, it was a long time ago. When I was probably 10, my mother was working as a bookkeeper with an accounting firm, and they just got into computers, and she brought home an Apple II. It was an Apple II Plus, and that kind of really started it off. I mean, we were video game enthusiasts. When I say we, I mean my brother and my sister and myself. We were all video game enthusiasts. We had an Atari 2600 at home. We played the heck out of that. But when the Apple came in, we suddenly started thinking a little bigger. And they had those really silly books. You could literally buy a book and you could open it and you could type in all the code in there and it could make a little something. So you would literally spend a day typing in this stuff, hoping you didn't screw up a single line, and then run it and see what happened. And it was really cool, and it got a lot of people educated on kind of the basics of computer science without any need for a formal education or anything. So that's what we did when we were kids. And like I remember being 12, 13 years old and literally drawing 8 cardinal directions of the General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard on graph paper because I wanted to make a game about the Dukes of Hazzard and the General Lee, which I at the time I loved. 12-year-old me, 13-year-old me, that was awesome stuff. And I went to university. Started doing a computer science degree. In the summer of my third year, having finished my third year, we set up a computer consulting business by day, and by night we started developing a video game. And we made a bet, and the bet was, if by the end of summer we can make a video game, let's try and become professional game developers. And professional to us meant actually paying a salary. So we worked all summer by day, and by night we made a game called Blasteroids 3D, which actually got packaged on this CD collection that we never actually got paid for, because this was a famous time in history where all sorts of companies popped up, made products, and forgot to pay everybody else involved. But we made our first game and it worked. At which point we're like, okay, let's go for it. Let's become professional game developers. So we set up a little office in my high school friends. His parents had this office building where the back corner was empty. So we set up in the back corner and we started working on what we were going to call the big game. And my friend's name was Marcel Zeschuk. And I had grown up with Greg Zeschuk coming to visit every summer, and we would hang out all summer and play D&D and watch Kung Fu theater and beat each other up on a trampoline. And so Greg comes down and he sees what we're doing. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "We're making games." And he's like, "This is so cool. I want to be part of this." And we're like, "Yeah, let's do that. Let's grow this thing. Let's go for it." So we wound up getting together. There was initially the six of us: me, my older brother Brent, my friend Marcel, Greg Zeschuk, He brought in Ray Muzica and Augustine Yip, and the six of us argued for 2 months on what the name of the company should be, finally settling on BioWare because it was the one that offended the least of us. And then we rolled forward, and that's how BioWare got started. Six kids trying to make a game and saying, well, how hard could it be? And the answer is always, it's really hard, but totally worth it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like just the vision and the execution at such a young age is pretty powerful. That's impressive.
I was looking back over it. I was at 22, I was directly supervising 75 people.
Oh my gosh.
This was before we understood management hierarchies and that directly reporting 75 people was a bad idea. Yeah, we are the proof of that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I noticed too on your LinkedIn profile that back then you were writing AI code.
Yeah, I would hesitate to call it AI. It was basically scripted behavior, including pathfinding and like kind of basic scripted intelligence of the enemy units, what they would do. And in the first game we built, Shattered Steel, the default response was find enemy target and begin firing. There wasn't a lot of strategy there. There wasn't a lot of intelligence. It was artificial. I wouldn't go as far as intelligence,
So
but
early AI.
it was. I mean, video games have always walked this line between allowing a bit of emergence intelligence and then being very kind of handcrafted and scripted. And RPGs are especially heavy on that, where you're trying to script an outcome, you're trying to drive a desired flow, but at the same time you want to leave enough chaos in there with the game systems and the interactions that fun and interesting and sometimes hilarious things can happen. And the end result, sometimes it blows up your master plan and you have to figure out some way to pull things back online. Like I can remember in the game Baldur's Gate, we had this three-way conversation. So you would start talking to one character, and then another character would kick in and start talking. It turned out that if you killed the first character, the conversation never happened. But if you killed the second character, the conversation would happen. And when the second character was meant to interject, the game would crash. So we built this weird workaround, which was called Biff the Understudy. So instead of the main character being in the second character, Biff the understudy would pop in and he would take their lines and he would speak them as if he was that character. Now, the cool thing was you could actually, if you did it right, you could recruit Biff into your party. And he was a very unspectacular party member. But you could adventure the whole game with Biff the understudy playing the part of the other character.
And that still sounds pretty sophisticated for that time, right?
We were doing a lot of things we had no idea about. So we just, honestly, we just threw ourselves at it head first and whatever solution stuck is what we went with.
Yeah, got it. Got it. Oh, that's interesting. So that kind of leads me to my next question. What experiences would you say most shaped how you approach today's role?
Hmm, that is a good question. I think the early days on what we called the big game, which became Shattered Steel. Shattered Steel was literally like a few people in a room randomly yelling really tense, like really tight technical details at each other, and then running off and doing something in a very frenetic and excited manner. There were no job descriptions. There was no clear distribution of who did what. If something needed to get done, somebody picked it up, somebody ran with it. And if you had no idea on how to do it, you'd pull one or two other people and you'd be like, I have no idea how to do this. What should we do? And you just start brainstorming. And within 10 minutes, you got some notes and you're off and you're running on it. So I think just the free form ideation and creation process of those days kind of set my career up for the rest of my life. Like I have probably done every single job in game development in some way. I have literally made sound effects with a microphone in my mouth. I've edited them down. I've put them in game. I've done testing. I've done artwork. I've done programming. If it's in a video game, I've probably done it. And the end result of that is I think it's offered me a lot of perspective. When somebody starts describing a problem they're having, I can very quickly identify with what they're doing. And like part of the concern today is that tools have become so complex. A lot of that, the workflow has become so complicated, it's almost hard to roll back. But at the same time, because I can identify with kind of the core level assets and how they were created historically, I can see that path and I can see kind of how it leads into the final product. And I think that gave me a lot of perspective. And that's one of the things I've been doing on my spare time is just kind of messing around with AI recently. And to me, like when I started playing with, especially with Claude Code, the first thing that popped into my mind was like, it's an Oscar Wilde quote, I believe, that was, "Fear the man who dreams with his eyes wide open." Because, my God, I would describe weird stuff and Claude would try to build it. And I would describe more weird stuff and Claude would try to build it. And then I would say, no, 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 that's totally wrong. We need to rethink this. We need to go back and do the entirely different approach to this. And what would have taken me weeks of refactoring, rebuilding a prototype, rethinking ideas, it's able to do in 10, 15 minutes. And it's an amazingly powerful tool for moving quickly with bad ideas. And it crushes out all the stupid fairly quickly. And when you start to get something forming up, it really suggests ways you could proceed properly to do it. I don't know if I'm ready to trust it for production code, especially on the video game side, because like video games are a very odd beast. There's this, it's like this confluence of all these things. And I've tried to analyze like what is video game development. And on a fundamental level, it's high performance user interface interaction, simulation, and feedback systems. And it has to be very responsive. And it's it's so reliant on tuning and feeling that's something I just can't anticipate AI actually picking up and taking over on. I think it's something that AI can help, but there's a certain taste that comes into play. And honestly, a level of dissatisfaction with the status quo, which really needs to be there to kind of build a great product. Like I kind of joked about it early in my career. It's like the best person to make games is somebody who hates games. Because you got to hate games. You got to love video games for what they could be, but you got to hate them for what they are. Because what they are is a compromise between all the technical aspects of what you're trying to do, the medium, the control systems, everything. You got to love it for that possibility. And to me, I look at video games as like, think about the connection you have with a character in a movie. You watch a movie, you really like that character, you're you're engaged with their story, you're invested in them. You play a video game and that character's beside you for 10, 12 hours and you're solving challenges together, you're going through trials together. That relationship is way tighter than you will get with any character in passive media. And I think there's a lot of people outside of video games who just haven't realized that yet. They just don't see that. And wow, I've gone very far afield of the question that we were talking about.
No, that's super impactful. I can see how, I mean, when you talk about AI, how people get really emotionally attached, and it's kind of similar to that, right? I mean, you're sharing your challenges and it's responding back to you. So in your case with the game, it's like
Yeah.
we're a team, we're sidekicks, and we're doing this together, right?
Well, and I joke about it. It's like, what's the main thing I do with AI? I ask it stupid questions.
Yeah.
I ask it questions that other people would look at me like, "Are you a moron?" I ask it thousands of dumb questions all day. That's all I do is like, I don't understand this. What's this? What's this word? What does that mean? How does that work? What would it look like if this was this? And it's happy to just spit things out. I mean, at the start, it's really like, oh, it wants to make you happy and it wants to tell you happy things. And I very quickly shut that down. I was like, you can't respond anything longer than a page. Just give me a page or less on everything. And
Okay.
it's just bang, bang, bang. All my bad questions get quick answers. I can quickly validate them elsewhere if I'm concerned about possible hallucination or anything. But it allows me to kind of, I don't know, iterate on thoughts very quickly. And I think that's amazing. And I think a lot of people in my near proximity are really happy because I stopped asking them a lot of really stupid questions.
Now you have your own sidekick to ask questions to.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah, so you were talking about, the early days and moving through, complex projects and things like that. You were a speaker at DICE recently, and one of the topics, you're roundtable leader, and you shared perspectives on how teams grow through complex projects. How do you personally define success in game development today?
Success is, it can be multifaceted. Like when I spoke at DICE, I was speaking specifically around the context of MythForce, which was a game that we came up with the concept. We built it within Unreal, and we at the same time were growing our studio. We were about 22 people at the start of the project. We were 93 at the end of it. So there were a lot of things happening there. So we had laid out some core kind of company strategic goals. One, we wanted to grow the team. We wanted to position ourselves to be able to be ready to do a much bigger project. The second goal was technology. Up to this point, we'd worked with mostly proprietary technology like the Infinity engine and the Aurora engine that we had built at BioWare. So this was us moving from those proprietary tech bases into Unreal. So one, build a team. Two, learn Unreal. Three, build a game from scratch, A to Z, and with a new IP and hopefully be successful. So the first three we hit hard. The fourth one, unfortunately, MythForce wasn't really successful. I think we came along at a challenging time, and I think we also launched with little marketing support, which I mean it really just never got in front of a lot of people's eyes. I also think we made a mistake on the pricing. I joke about it. There's a there's an Olympic level sport at Beamdog. It's called critiquing MythForce and saying what went wrong with it. We're so good at it. We are so good. We can just team can drop in half an hour later. You're like, I want to go home and hold myself. But it's, I mean, when I look back on the first three, we succeeded. Like our knowledge in Unreal became good enough that we were able to walk over to Obsidian and say, "Hey, do you guys need some co-development help?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure. Let's do a quick trial." And within weeks, people on our team were integrated into their core development and contributing on some big successful games. We helped them out on Avowed and we helped them out on Outer Worlds 2, which were both great opportunities, not only for us to work with another company, but also to learn their approaches. And in some ways, there's like some code patterns that still exist from like the Baldur's Gate era in some of the Obsidian stuff. Things are organized in a way you're like, oh my God, there's shared DNA here. And it's hilarious how much impact we had on kind of just that thought process on how Western RPGs are built from back in the days when we built Baldur's Gate.
Yeah,
It's
that's
really cool.
amazing. Yeah. Did you want to say something, Steph?
Uh, no, it sounds like well, I did want to ask about I'm sorry, what was the game you were talking about before? Mystic
Oh, MythForce?
Myth Force, sorry. Myth Force. It sounds like you know, you guys did a really good job building that game and picking out some cool aspects of like it looks like a retro game, right? But it's not. But what were some of the challenges, like you said, marketing that you learned from that game release?
Oh, we learned so much from MythForce. So much. So MythForce grew out of a really simple idea, which was we wanted to make a little multiplayer RPG that you could play with friends and family.
Mhm.
And over its development, it just kept changing and morphing and it wandered searching for what it was. Now, fairly early on, we came up with a piece of concept art that kind of hit that cartoon style that we were going for. And that cartoon style was a very deliberate choice. It was very 1980s Don Bluth kind of Dragon's Lair,
Mhm.
Secret of Nim visuals. And in retrospect, that was probably one of the worst things we ever did because, oh my God, we didn't realize the cost. So
Mhm.
Unreal's really good at doing some certain things. And Unreal really does not want to render cartoon stuff. That's not what it's built for. So not only were we building a game within Unreal and learning Unreal while we're doing it, but we're fighting Unreal every step of the way on lighting, on shading, on how the characters are rendered versus how the environment's rendered. And there were so many fights we picked just because we fell in love with a piece of concept art. Now, in the end of the day, I think we made a good call with the concept art because it did visually differentiate the game from all the other games that were on the market at that time.
Mhm.
The downside is we didn't make a game that was as good as the other games that were on the market. So we hyper focused on the visual aspect. And unfortunately, I mean, we committed to some things that were kind of out of scope. So we had a small-ish team. Like at the end, we were about 90 people. But we did an Xbox, a PlayStation, a Nintendo Switch, and a PC launch all concurrent. We didn't outsource any of the ports, and that was the majority of our technical talent was spent fighting technical issues as opposed to making the game better.
Mm.
And we actually took a year after the game shipped, and we stripped back to a small team of like there was like 4 of us, and we kind of rebuilt the whole game and improved the game. And we call it the "We're Not Embarrassed Anymore" patch. So we finished the game, we look at it, and we're like, this is actually a pretty goddamn good game. I feel pretty good about where we left this off. And then, I mean, MythForce wasn't a success, and the reality of game development is a studio has mouths. You got to feed those mouths. And if a product's not making money, you can only support it for so long. You can only have faith in it, and if it's not delivering, you gotta walk away at some point. So, I mean, ultimately with MythForce, that's kind of what we did. I have no idea if I even slightly answered the question you asked.
No, I think you did. You talked about the challenges of launching that game, and yeah, it's sounds like you learned a lot, which is good.
I have an old adage: the best lessons are taught with a hammer to the face.
Oh my God.
A good one. I like
That
that.
that sounds scary.
So one of the things I do to relax is I'm a blacksmith.
Oh, really? That's so cool.
Yeah, this is
So
exciting. I saw this on your LinkedIn too, and I
yeah,
was
so
going to ask.
I made a sword. So
Wow.
it's about, I don't know, 130 layers of Damascus. It's pretty light for its size, but it's I don't know, it's 5 feet roughly in height. And that's what I do for fun. So when I talk about hammer to the face, I hammer a lot of things, and I get a lot of lessons from tactile feedback.
Yeah.
That and my panic reactions are all gone. Like my reaction now is like, I smell fire. Is it me? Quick check. If it's me, pat, pat, pat. If it's not me, find out where the fire is. Stop the fire. Take a moment, survey, make sure there's no other fire, return to task. So as a result, when things go bad in game development, I'm like, it's not on fire. And everybody's like, oh, he's so calm. It's like, no, I'm literally telling you the truth. It's not on fire because I'm used to things being on fire and I'm okay with that. So whatever this is totally manageable.
Yeah, and that gives you a lot of time
Great.
to think too and kind of process things, right? So you're spending all this time creating a 5 foot sword. I mean, helps you get your frustrations out, helps you think through things and process.
The other side is, I mean, with game development, you need a team to do anything. And coordinating people is the hardest part. So when I go in blacksmith, I do it by myself. I roll into my shop and I'm like, do I want to do this today? And if the answer is yes, I do it. If I don't feel it, I stop and I just don't do it. And it's important to me that I keep it a hobby and I keep it light and that it's something I can engage when I want to and I don't have to engage with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
do you go to a foundry or something, or where do you do the blacksmith stuff
No,
at?
I have a shop that I rent. So I actually made
Oh,
an elvish dagger that's it's kind of it's inspired by Aragorn's dagger from the Lord of the Rings. But
That's cool.
my dagger is multi-layered Damascus because that's all I do.
Oh.
But it's a really nice dagger.
Do you
So
ever make things from games you've designed?
oh,
Or has that
I
ever crossed your mind?
a lot of people have pitched me on that, and I've looked
Hmm.
at a couple things that were in our games we made, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. I would never make that. I'm a
You,
real, I don't know, I'm a real purist when it comes to blacksmithing. I like to keep things very simple and very elegant and very clean. And a lot of video game weapons just go over the top, partially just so you can make out the silhouette and see what's happening.
mhm.
That said, I mean, I've thought about it. Mostly today, what I do is I mostly forge chef's knives. And I made a mistake years ago. I made a couple chef's knives and people were like, oh, those are great. Hey, can I get one? And I was like, okay, sure. I'll make a list. So I made a list and a bunch of people asked. So I put them on the list. And I was like, okay, here's the deal. You tell me you want one, I put you on the list. Years, years may pass. At some point, I will send you a picture and I will say, do you want this? And if you say yes, I will mail it to you. When it shows up, you have 2 weeks. You use it. And if you don't want it, you send it back. If you want it, you pay me what you think it's worth. And that's my scheme. And it
That's
is not
awesome.
is not helping me become a millionaire. I'll say that much. But I only let friends on the list. Like I actually closed the list like a couple of years ago just because I couldn't keep up. I was starting to get behind, and I'm like, look, I'm 3 years behind already. I I I can't disappoint any more people.
That's pretty cool though. It's very
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Very.
it's fun because you get to build functional art, and
Mhm.
people like functional art. It's neat.
Yeah.
Neat and therapeutic, right? It's
Yep,
your hobby. Yeah, I have one more question for you, and then I'll let Toni jump into the rapid fire. Those will be fun for sure.
sure.
Um, so looking ahead, how do you see leadership evolving as games become more complex and multidisciplinary?
Um, I think at its core, game development comes down like when I look at my own personal role, especially on games I led from scratch. Quite often it was going forward, being in front, being the vision setter,
Mm.
planting a flag and saying, this is where we're going. And then looking back at the team and making sure the team was coming in the right direction, making slight course corrections, and making concept corrections as required. I look back now and I'm kind of like, really, my role as a game director is I'm the customer advocate. I need to look at the game from the end user perspective. And I need to say, is this fun? Is this engaging? Is this interesting? Am I doing things that I want to do? Are there things that this game is making me do that are just making me mad? Am I saying bad words at the screen? Why am I saying bad words at the screen? Probably because the game developers did something dumb. So let's do less dumb things that are bad for the customers. And really, I mean, video games are about, it's kind of about, at least for me, it's about capturing a fantasy, a concept, an idea, an experience you wish you could have. And then we literally just start reverse engineering that. It's like, how do we pull off this experience? How do we make it happen? And sometimes we inject these ridiculous constraints into it because there's some technical limitation or something. And I think the big job as a director is to come in and be that customer advocate and say, this sucks. This is so garbage. Like, why are we doing this? This is bad. And you just got to re-examine and relook and think about smarter ways to solve those problems. And I think the greatest games come from people who really love the subject matter they're making.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think by the time they're done, they hate what they've built because it's so limited compared to what's in their head.
Mhm.
But that said, there's the other side of game development, which is actually the most addicting part, which is by working with a team of creative people. You have this idea in your head, this vision, and you communicate it to some other people who are really good at their jobs, and they run off excited and they do something and they bring it back to you, and you're like, that is 100 times better than what's in my head. So naturally you say, that's exactly what I was thinking. Awesome, let's go. And everybody's like, okay, yeah. But everything gets better when you bring smart, skilled, excited people into it. It's just it's an accelerant, and it's the most addictive thing about being in game development, being part of a creative team, and just smashing forward. It's so cool.
Yeah. There you go.
I love that. I feel like that we hear that a lot from when we talk to leaders in gaming. I feel like the most, common thing is to hire great people and let them do their thing. So,
Game developers we're all optimists. You have to be, because you're essentially starting with a blank piece of paper. You got to make something out of nothing, and that requires massive amounts of optimism. Because if you're a pessimist, you'll just think of all the reasons why you can't do it or why you shouldn't do it. So optimistic people are amazing and terrifying at the same time. They're terrifying because they never think about, well, could we really do that? Well, why not? Why can't we do that? And the answer is sometimes you probably shouldn't, but God bless them for trying.
I love it. Well, I have a couple of rapid fire questions for you, and
Okay.
these are meant to be, fun and light, but, feel free to answer as you like. And this is kind of our last segment before we close it out. But
Okay.
wanted to ask you, and I love some of the memories that you touched on, from your childhood and with your siblings. But if you had to select, what would be either your favorite video game or gaming memory?
Ooh. Probably, yeah, I probably have two competing favorite video game memories. One of them was playing X-Wing during during the finals of I think it was my third year of comp sci. It might have been my second year, but literally as finals are approaching, I started playing X-Wing, and it's getting late at night, and I'm on a mission, and I'm playing it, and I'm playing it again, and I'm playing it again, and I'm like, oh shit, I should go to bed, and I should study, and I should not fail out of university, but I kept playing because I loved that experience so much because I really liked Star Wars. And there I am, I'm playing Star Wars, and I'm getting ready to do the Death Star trench run, and I'm so jacked about it, and it's so late, and I should be going to bed, and it was just so much fun.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think the second one is probably the first like big time I felt a lot of threat in an MMO. I was playing EverQuest, and I had this ogre character, and I was in Oguk, which was the land of the ogres, and my friend was a dark elf over in Neriak. So I did the standard, I'm going to run from point A to point B. Only in EverQuest, the way you did that was you stripped your gear, put it in a bank, and you ran naked across most of the world to get to the other side. And there's points where there's giant stomping and things are way over leveled, and I am terrified as I'm running this big ogre character from point A to point B with no clothing on. And to me, that was just such an exciting moment because MMOs were still new and exciting. And you got to see the potential of kind of a simulated world and trying to live within that.
I love that. That sounds like high stakes, definitely. A little bit of stress. Um, Today, what's one piece of tool or technology that you can't live without?
Google Sheets,
Mm,
specifically spreadsheets.
that's a good one.
Anybody talks to me about anything, I'm building a spreadsheet and I'm analyzing it. And I've got 4 sheets and they're cross-referencing each other. I raced sports cars as a hobby, and
Well,
there's another buddy of mine. He's an engineer, and he sent me a couple calculations about what he was trying to figure out, and I sent him back a Mongo spreadsheet of like 7 tabs in this calculation, and he's like, "You're insane." And I'm like, "No, I'm precise."
yes,
And that was
exactly.
all about deciding the right size of tire for us to run.
I love it. It's very precise. Well, and you mentioned Claude earlier. I've been having a lot of fun with Claude in Google Sheets. I mean, Claude will build out all the formulas, all the tabs. Like you just, can tell it conversationally what you want. And there you go, beautiful spreadsheet.
I have trust issues between my main Google stuff and my Claude stuff.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think what I'll do is I'll probably set up a Google almost like sandbox account where
Mm,
I don't care as much about it.
yeah.
And then I'll let Claude start playing in that. That's where we can establish comfort towards each other. Because like my email is it's so important to me and it's so integral to everything I do that I guard it. Like my phone has like a quick password protect, it shuts off instantly. My computer's quick locked, everything, so I can just keep that secure. when a family member touches my phone, I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you touching my phone? Like, I just want to look at your pictures. And they're like, okay, I will unlock and I will supervise you as you look at my pictures.
I love it. Keeping the right level of security everywhere.
Yeah,
Um, One last question from me. If you weren't, I feel like we might have some clues to this answer, but if you weren't leading Beamdog and enhancing beloved games, what would you be doing?
that is a big question. Um, so I have this really bad habit of getting excited about a lot of things. And at the same time, I look at the world and there's things in it that trouble me. And like right now, drones scare the hell out of me. Like the idea of I'm walking along, I'm just dude X and something 700, 800 feet back, eyes in on me and comes in and blows up and wipes me out. That's terrifying. So at night, I'll wake up at 3 in the morning and be like, how do I stop that? How do I stop that from happening? How do I interrupt that flow? And I'll just start processing it. And then I'll write notes to myself and I'll go to bed. And I'll wake up in the morning and I'm like, I'm insane. Like I write this weird gobbledygook to myself. But I just think there's so many challenges in the world today, and there's so many things that like humans are so good at looking at things and saying, this is a problem. I need to think about how to solve it. And when you're engaged on something, you can make amazing progress. So I think if I wasn't doing video games right now, I would probably have some kind of specifically drone defense startup thing. That's probably what I would be doing because I I really I find the whole concept of drones terrifying, especially like just the arbitrariness of it. And I want to see what I could do to end that.
I love
Sounds like
that.
you're creating a video game as you're talking us through this. How do we stop the drones?
Story.
It's one possible way to do it. I mean, you build a video game like, and then you basically use the video game as a simulation, and then use that, map it over to okay, now this is the real product over here. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
people are playing the video game, and you're kind of finding out the core logic and what works and what doesn't. I
yeah,
mean, video
absolutely.
games are an underappreciated they're an underappreciated medium for simulation and really problem solving in all sorts of diverse areas.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I agree with that. Well,
And if you
thank
want to
you.
find crazy solutions to anything, throw a bunch of gamers at it. They'll pull stuff you would never think of. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, well, you just need to do this," and you're like, "Does that work? Does that work in reality?" And sometimes it does.
And they'll make it fun while they're figuring it out, right?
That's that to some people that is fun.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you, Trent, so much for sharing your perspective with us today from your experience of BioWare to Beamdog. I believe your insights are highlight how long-term thinking and continuous learning shape lasting impact in the industry. And I think our audience is really going to appreciate your stories, your experience, your thought leadership. So thank you for joining us.
It was a lot of fun, and I think ultimately it comes down to like, optimism and just trying to think through everything. Pull some smart people together, solve a problem, draw pictures until it goes away. That's what I do.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
that's a
and
great way to go.
spreadsheets.
And spreadsheets when you're by yourself. But when you got
Yes.
people, draw pictures on a whiteboard. And the worse they are, the faster people will solve the problem.
I love that. Well, for our audience who's listening, if you enjoyed this episode, you can find Game Changers, the future of play on Spotify, YouTube, or on our website, which is securediqs.ai. We'll also include the details in the caption. Trent, thank you so much. It was so great to meet you.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Thank you.